Hello, we're continuing with the laws of Lashon Harah, chapter 8, Seif Vav, chapter, yeah, number 6. So we've been discussing the prohibition of who are not allowed to speak Lashon Harah about, and some people where it's actually a mitzvah to speak Lashon Harah about them. And the last person which we discussed, where it's a mitzvah to speak Lashon Harah about them, to speak evil about them, is an apikoros, is a heretic, someone who denies the Torah is from Hashem, or even part of the Torah is from Hashem, even a small detail, or other heretical thoughts, which the Be'er Maim Chaim points us to the Rambam and Yoredeya, Siman Kuf Nun Ches, for those who want to look it up. And for instance, if someone would say that he would downplay the coming of Mashiach, that would make someone an apikoros, or the oral Torah is not authoritative, things like that. And not only is one allowed to speak Lashon Harah about them, but it's actually a mitzvah to speak Lashon Harah about them, to denigrate them. Okay? And, right, especially if someone's going around, it's not like a private opinion, but it's just something that he goes around sharing with people and telling everybody, for sure that's much worse. And again, we're not talking about someone who just doesn't know better and was never taught the Torah and wasn't brought up, right? Obviously, according to most poskim, one is for sure not allowed to speak Lashon Harah about those people, but somebody who knows better and is still going around preaching heretical ideas and holds, even if they just hold heretical ideas, it is a mitzvah to speak Lashon Harah about them. And the Chavetz Chaim actually writes that when speaking Lashon Harah about these people, one does not need all of the conditions of permissibility when it is usually allowed to speak Lashon Harah, like L'toeles, and you're not mechaven, you don't have in mind to denigrate them. You don't need all those conditions here. Okay, so we're continuing with this topic of speaking Lashon Harah about an apikoros. Oh, and just to mention earlier, I mentioned yesterday, but I didn't say the source. Even if someone's not an apikoros, but let's say he has a bad character trait, and you don't want your son or your daughter or your student to learn from that person, the Chavetz Chaim says in 4:9, chapter 4, halacha number 9, that you're allowed to tell your child not to learn from that person. Now, again, that's for a purpose. That's not an apikoros. But there are certain people, when they're doing the wrong thing, and you want to teach people that what they're doing is incorrect, you're allowed to teach people. Now, we mentioned that the Chelkas Ben Yamin, he says it's not so clear from 4:9 if it's only your student or your child that you're allowed to tell about someone who doesn't have a good character trait and you don't want to learn from, or everybody. He said it looks like a little bit of a contradiction in the implication of the language over there. But either way, that's just if someone has a bad character trait. Here we're talking about someone who's not bikoros, a total heretic. You can say whatever you want about them and just totally denigrate them. Now, even if someone's not an apikoros, but let's say they publicly share something which is against the Torah, then obviously you're allowed to point out publicly why they're incorrect, why they are incorrect, right? If someone's teaching something which is against the Torah, even if it doesn't technically qualify as heresy, then we still don't want people to be misled, so one should publicly point out where they are incorrect. In fact, there's a famous Maharshal, he says that one should rather give up their life than misrepresent Torah. Very famous, it's in Bava Kama, that Torah is so serious, again, because as we mentioned, Torah is the message of God to humanity. It's what he desires of humanity, what he wants from people, why he created the world. So if someone misrepresents that, that's a very, very serious sin, and the Marshal actually says that it's better for one to give up one's life than to misrepresent the Torah. So of course, if we see somebody who is misrepresenting the Torah, whether it's by accident or on purpose, and it's done publicly, one should of course publicly correct them so people don't get the wrong idea. Okay, so now in Halacha Vav, we are continuing the laws about speaking about an apikoros. So it says, "V'dafka im shama mehem ba'atzmo divrei apikoros." You can only say Lashon Harah about an apikoros when you see yourself that he said apikoros, meaning you read something he wrote or you heard him say heretical things. But if other people tell you that he's a heretic, but if you just heard a rumor that this guy is an apikoros, he's a heretic, then you're not allowed to denigrate him, whether it's in front of him or behind his back. He says, and if you hear it, you didn't see it yourself, you're not allowed to believe it in your heart, but you are allowed to be worried for it. Meaning, let's say your child is in a school, and somebody tells you this guy is an apikoros. I heard him say X, Y, Z. So now you're not allowed to believe it totally, but you are allowed to investigate and even try to get your kid into another class if you don't want a heretic teaching him. Obviously, you don't want a heretic teaching him. And you could also warn people privately that you shouldn't hang around this guy until you clarify it. Now that's only when someone tells you that someone's an apikoros. That's when you're not allowed to believe it, but you're allowed to be choshish for it. You're allowed to take precautions from this person. But if there is a call in the city and that everyone knows in this city, that's the city heretic, then you don't. Then of course you don't need to. You can actually believe what he is saying, and the Ber Maim Chaim points out here. We said that if you hear somebody's an apikoros, a heretic, that you're allowed to be worried for it yourself and take the proper precautions, right? You don't have to go listen to a Torah class from him, and you don't have to send your kid to a Torah class, but he says you're also allowed to tell others, only when you heard it. So the Chalkas Binyamin here points out, he's a little bothered that in other cases, let's say, we're not talking about heresy, we're talking about someone's a thief. You hear somebody is he's a fraudster, he commits fraud, and you were thinking of going into business with him. So you don't have to go into business, but the Chafetz Chaim was unsure whether you're allowed to tell somebody else. Maybe you're only allowed to be worried for yourself. So he was unsure, the Chafetz Chaim. So we said what you should do is you should make efforts to clarify it for yourself. And once you're sure that he is in fact a fraudster, then you can tell other people. But here, it doesn't seem that you have to clarify. So Rabbi Cohen, the Chalkas Binyamin, wants to say that maybe apikorsis is so serious, heresy is so serious, you are allowed to even tell people before you even clarify. But you see, that is what the Chafetz Chaim is saying, that when it comes to heresy, you're allowed to tell people, even if you only heard it and didn't see it yourself. Now, obviously, if you saw it yourself, right, you're going to a Torah class and you see that this Torah teacher said something heretical, said that God didn't write the Torah, or it wasn't given by Hashem, it was influenced by external historical factors, God forbid, then you see him writing that yourself, then obviously you can tell people and warn them and denigrate them however you want because you saw the heresy yourself. Okay, now let's go on to Halacha Zayin, number 7. Again, of course, any questions, if anyone has, please email me or comment on Facebook. V'da'od, no further. Di muchzak be'ir l'rasha, if someone is muchzak in the city as an evil person, he's an evildoer. Everyone in the city knows he's an evildoer. Mipnei shar and yani averis. Shemutar avuram l'gnoisam, that he does sins, you're allowed to denigrate him. Gam ken dina hachi, it's the same law as a heretic. Ve'ezu muchzak, what does it mean that someone's considered in the city as an evildoer? Kol shehuskim b'fnei anshe ha'ir, l'rasha, that everyone in the city knows and agrees that he's an evil person. Achshel yipol lahem basafik, there's no question. Machma shmuos haros, like there's always rumors about him, or people are always talking about how Shiotzes Alav Tamid Minyanini, if he's always committing adultery. Yeah, everyone knows that's the adulterer in the city, and everyone knows he does it. He's Russia. You're allowed to speak Lashon Harah about him. Right, and it only applies to, we've mentioned this many times, a sin that everybody knows is a very serious sin, like adultery, or things like that, theft, murder. But things that are people don't know are actually serious sins. For instance, getting angry, right? There's someone in the city, that's the angry guy. So people don't know that it's a sin to get angry. So he's not viewed as a Rasha. Even though we know that he always gets angry, he's not considered an evildoer because not everybody knows it's a sin to get angry, so he doesn't apply here. One is not allowed to speak Lashon Harah about that. But if there's a guy that everybody knows, he's always stealing, and he's always committing adultery, and he's always killing people, or then one is allowed to speak Lashon Harah about him. Avalim yatsa alav kol ba'alma, that's when everyone knows. But if it's just rumors, you can't. You're not allowed to rely just on rumors to denigrate the person. We're talking about where everybody knows it as a fact. And if it's a rumor, you're not even allowed to believe it. Now, the Chafetz Chaim adds a very interesting addendum to this law. V'yignu aso v'yitlu asa heter b'sefer hazeh im kol zeh lo ishmit. So v'k'mamar Ramzal b'bava basra al Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Amru. I'll translate a second. Umahakra Amram ki yisharim darach Hashem tzadikim yelchu bam u'poshim mikashel bam. He says he's very nervous to say this halacha, to write this halacha, that if we know someone's an evildoer, that it's mutter to speak Lashon Hara about it, because he knows there's going to be certain people that as soon as they hear someone did a little something wrong, they're going to say, oh, he's evil. I'm allowed to speak Lashon Hara about him. I could say whatever I want about him. So the Chavetz Chaim said he is nervous to write this halacha. However, he cites the Gemara in the Pasuk. It says, Tzadikim yelchu bam, uposhim yikashlu bam, that righteous people will go in them, and evil people will falter in them. Meaning that you have to say what's the truth, and the righteous people will do the correct thing, and evil people are going to do the wrong thing, no matter what you say. You can't always be worried. If you're saying the truth, you can't always be worried that someone might misinterpret what you're saying, because the verse says that righteous people are going to do righteous, and evil people will do evil. That's the way it is, right? How did two people react? I once heard a Rebbe say, you could have two people, they have a question on the Torah, let's say. They have something's bothering them. So one person goes to his Rebbe and discusses it with him. He hears an explanation and he understands what he originally thought was an issue, was a question. It turns out it's a question that's been discussed many times over the years, and there's many answers and explanations, and everything makes sense. That's how a tzaddik would approach such an issue. How would an evil person approach such an issue? He sees a problem in the Torah, and he starts going on Facebook and on the blogs and saying, oh, the Torah is chas v'shalom, the Torah is ridiculous because it says X, Y, Z. He doesn't want to get the truth. He doesn't bother. The same two people can look at something and have totally opposite reactions. So the Chavetz Chaim is saying here, he's writing what the halacha is. This is the Jewish law, that if someone's an evildoer and everyone knows he's an evildoer, you're allowed to speak Lashon Hara about him. And even though people are going to misinterpret it, he's writing it anyway. Okay, let's just summarize here the Be'er Ma'im Chaim, because he pointed that out. He says that when we're talking about Lashon Hara, about an evildoer, again, everyone knows he's evil. It's not just rumors. It's like a known fact that he goes around committing serious sins. He says when you speak Lashon Hara about him, it has to be lito elis. I'll just read it. The reason you're speaking Lashon Hara about him, you have to do it. You have to have the right intent. Meaning the right intent is that you're speaking bad about this evildoer so people don't follow in his ways. And maybe maybe even this guy, when he hears people are talking about him, he's going to start doing tshuva, and maybe he'll do the right thing, right? When he sees when this evil guy sees that everyone's speaking badly about him, maybe he'll have in his heart to do tshuva, to repent. And he says also you're not allowed to exaggerate the evil that he did, and also you shouldn't hide to just you can't talk badly about him behind his back, and then when you're in front of him, say what a nice guy he is. If you're going to talk badly about him, you have to talk badly about him everywhere. Right, but the main thing is your kavana, your idea has to be l'shem shemayim. When you're talking badly about him, it has to be l'shem shemayim, that you're doing things for the sake of heaven, that people should distance themselves from this evil person. Now it's interesting, the Chavetz Chaim wrote earlier, when it comes to an apikoros, a heretic, then you do not need, he said, all of the conditions of the toelis, which we haven't gotten to. But when it comes to someone who does sins, then you do need all of these conditions, which is interesting. It sounds like, again, a heretic is much, much worse than someone who does sins in the open. Okay? So, again, with all these halachas, as always, we should be very careful, and one should always speak to his rabbi, whoever asks questions, that if someone just don't necessarily decide yourself that someone's an evildoer and you can speak Lashon Hara about him. But again, it's sometimes a mitzvah to speak Lashon Hara. When people are doing evil, it's a mitzvah to speak Lashon Hara about them so that folks don't learn from their ways, and maybe they'll do tshuva, and people shouldn't learn a perverted message of Torah from them. And hope everyone has a beautiful day.